I call this meeting to order, the virtual meeting to order, the regular meeting of the City Commission. It is Wednesday, May 27th, 2020, approximately 6:07 p.m. And it's a virtual meeting. And at this time, we'll go ahead and proceed with the invocation by Commissioner Ramirez, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance by Commissioner Jones.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for allowing us to be here to conduct city business. I ask you to please guide us, clear our minds, and give us the wisdom to conduct city business and make the right decisions for the city of Grande. In your name we pray, amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Under the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to the Texas state under God, one and indivisible.
This time we'll have roll call and finding of quorum. Ms. Garza?
Yes, Mayor Villarreal,
Here.
Mayor Perton Garza,
Here.
Commissioner Flores, she's absent, Commissioner Ramirez,
Here.
and Commissioner Jones.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, Ms. Garza. This next business in order is item 1C, public forum. Do we have a public forum, Ms. Garza?
No, sir, not at this time. Nobody signed up for public forum.
At this time, though, no one, just for the record, no one signed up for public forum, I should say. However, we do extend an invitation to anyone that's hearing us right now. If you have some interest to speak in public forum, you can do so at this time. Do we have anyone, Garza, that would like to speak in public forum at this time?
Nobody spoke up.
Okay. For the record, the opportunity was afforded to individuals to speak in public forum. However, no one signed up or no one spoke up to speak in public forum at this time. Moving on to item 1D, reading of Proclamation, Historic Preservation Month. Ms. Yen?
Yes, Mayor, Commissioners, May is designated as National Preservation Month. Celebrating Rio Grande City's architecture is the local theme this year. The City of Rio Grande City proudly joins the National Trust for Historic Preservation and Historic Communities across the United States in celebrating the history and contributions made by dedicated individuals in helping to preserve the tangible aspects of the local heritage and historic preservation. A proclamation in honor of Historic Preservation Month is provided for your consideration and official reading into the record. Mayor, do you have a copy of that resolution?
Yes, I do. I'll go ahead and read it. Proclamation, Historic Preservation Month. Whereas May is designated as National Preservation Month, co-sponsored by the Rio Grande City EDC, the City of Rio Grande City, and the National Trust for Historic Preservation. Whereas Rio Grande City has been nationally recognized as a National Main Street Community for its third consecutive year in 2020. And whereas Rio Grande City is a certified local government by the Texas Historical Commission, and whereas Rio Grande City is one of the most historic communities in Texas with more than 600 historic properties, and whereas it is important to celebrate the role of history in our lives and the contributions made by dedicated individuals in helping to preserve the tangible aspects of the heritage that has shaped us as a people. And whereas celebrating Rio Grande City's architecture is the theme for 2020 Preservation Month, sponsored by Rio Grande City Main Street Program. Now, therefore, I, Juez Villarreal, Mayor, on behalf of the City Commission, to proclaim May 2020 as Historic Preservation Month, Rio Grande City, and call upon our families, businesses, and residents to join their fellow citizens across the United States in recognizing and participating in this special observance. And with that, Commissioner Jones, I know you're an instrumental part in our historic downtown, and it's nationally recognized along with the Main Street Program and Board. Would you care to say a few words, Commissioner Jones?
Well, I'm basically proud of the Main Street Advisory Board. This past couple of years have been a challenge, on getting the footsteps to be able to get recognized statewide, nationally. Should be an honor, for the residents of Rio Grande City to be able to accomplish, on our historical downtown and be able to demonstrate and show all the winter Texans and visitors across the state of Texas and nationwide that we do have a lot of historical history here in downtown Rio Grande City. And as we continue moving forward on it, I know that we're heading in new directions with new plans and better things to show residents and people that visit downtown Rio Grande City.
Thank you, Commissioner Jones. Commissioner Ramirez, Commissioner Garza, anything else you would like to add to that recognition?
Well, Mayor, just to reiterate what Commissioner Jones said, just proud of all the staff, Ms. Guillen, Director, and Nancy, and the whole Board of Directors there that serve on that Main Street Board. Excellent job last couple of years. They've really shown a lot of improvement and a lot of great things and a lot of great ideas that we were looking at to improve the Main Street. So again, congratulations to all.
Thank you, Commissioner Ramirez. Commissioner Garza?
Oh, just to congratulate everybody that's worked on our downtown area, and Mr. Jones and Mr. Ramirez, I believe, said it all. And we need to continue improving our buildings and working on them. And again, congratulations to the property owners. Continue encouraging them to keep these buildings up. It's a great recognition that Rio Grande has, and we need to take advantage of it.
Thank you, Commissioner Garza. Ms. Guillen, you had something to say?
Yes, Mayor, Commissioners, thank you. And of course, we couldn't do this without the support of our Main Street Advisory Board. And I thank Nancy for all of the work that she's done to get us to where we're at today. We've got a campaign, Imagine the Possibilities, that is going to highlight some of those buildings downtown. And we're going to go virtual with these photos and presentations. Obviously, the kickoff was this proclamation reading, which we have this evening. We plan to roll out Mr. Porterscheller's biography so that people understand some of the background and the architecture to our historic community. And we'll be featuring historic buildings in photos and presentations online with some education and awareness on historic preservation and restoration. So you can look for some of that information on the Main Street page, and you will see some really nice history showcased over the next couple of years.
Thank you, Ms. Guillen. And when you're looking at the third consecutive year to be nationally recognized, it's a phenomenal accomplishment. And obviously it takes a group effort by many entities and individuals that are taking the bull by the horns and addressing our downtown. With that, it's one of those things one of those situations where Rio Grande City continues to grow and prosper, and we're trying to move on the modern amenities, but also continue and continue to promote the historic appeal that Rio Grande City has. So in a way, it's combining the best of both worlds. It's seeking the modernization, but at the same time, valuing the historic value and appeal of Rio Grande City. And I think we've been able to do both. And again, kudos to all the department heads, all the staff, all the volunteers, the board, commissioners, a great effort. It is something to be applauded because we're managing to, again, modernization, looking at amenities and all these other current modernization of Rio Grande City, but at the same time, appreciate the value and our historic appeal in downtown Rio Grande City and our historic buildings. So again, thank you so much for that. Moving on, item 1E, Departmental Reports. Mr. Perez.
Yes, good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. We've got a couple of several reports from different departments. We'll start with been communicating back and forth with Ms. Hernandez regarding Freedom Fest, and I'll let her go into the details of some ideas we've been bouncing around and see what y'all think about them. Go ahead, Sarah.
Hello, everyone. It's been so long. Definitely miss meeting face to face with everyone, but it's a good alternative, I suppose.
I understand George Strait is coming to Rio Grande City. Is that true?
Yeah, he already came. We missed it. It was coronavirus. He said hello to me.
All right, okay. Let's start that rumor. Let's start a rumor that George Strait is coming to Rio Grande City for Freedom Fest.
Why not?
Apologies, Ms. Hernandez. I just get carried away with it. So go ahead.
Well, I've been obviously thinking about some of the events. Obviously, you know, there's not too much happening right now due to the pandemic and such. It looks like we're almost at a stage where hopefully we're getting out of it. And I think we've discussed it enough that people want to look forward to something. They're definitely going out to the island and traveling to all these different places. So why not do something local so they don't feel the need to travel out? And we began talking a little bit about the Freedom Fest. Ben from Solido reached out, and we kind of toyed with an idea of either doing a concert in the car and still doing the fireworks, because that's something that people can see from their home. I know before all of this happened, we had solicited a firework vendor, so we have a contract ready to go. So we can decide to move forward with that, because in addition to Solido, we had another local group reach out, willing to work with us as well, and wanting to play for the community, wanting to do something to give back to the community, which I think is great. And I don't think we should pass up on that opportunity, try to see how we can work together with the fire chief and the police department to come up with something safe for everybody to enjoy and to celebrate. So just wanted to kind of get y'all's feedback and see if this is something that we think we should do next month, or leave it to July, a little bit later in the month of July, just so we have a little bit more time to plan it and advertise it. But it's really up to you guys if you think we should move forward with this.
Well, personally, I like the idea, and if we need to apply social distancing, then those are things that we need to look at, whether it's a drive-in style of fireworks where people remain in their vehicles or their truck beds and be able to see the fireworks with separation, or drawing social distancing circles around the parking lot where people can within family units. I mean, just come up with ideas, because everything points that the governor mid-June is going to be, or even sooner, is going to be opening up even more so to phase 3. So in lieu of all that, we can bring it to fruition with that in mind. Can we practice social distancing? And how would we coordinate that? Is that possible? Is it feasible? Because I mean, it's something that we can certainly plan out. And does it give us ample time though between now and, let's say, the normal weekend to be able to put something like this together, Ms. Hernandez, with all that social distancing in mind, and see what other ideas, maybe we could to have a creative way of doing this while practicing all the safe protocols.
Right. That's why I feel like if we would keep it originally, we'd always do it the Saturday before 4th of July. So that would be June 27th. And I think that's a little bit of a rush to kind of get it together. So I was thinking maybe planning something more in July, either mid or towards the end of July, when maybe some of these social distancing guidelines are a little bit not as strict, and we can really gauge at that point where we're at as a community, because obviously safety is our #1 concern. But still being able to provide something to the community for them to enjoy, some good live music, the fireworks, and something besides, you know, all this, you know, obviously the situation with the pandemic has been taking a toll on everyone, getting cabin fever and whatnot. So something that they can go out and enjoy with their family, I think would be great.
What it, band, is he available? What dates would he be available? His band?
I mean, luckily they're all available. Everybody's
As
available.
of right now, right?
It's cleared. So he's like, we spoke today again about it, just to kind of catch up on some of the people who have reached out wanting to help out. We had come up with an idea back in January that we would do the 2020 Freedom Fest Homecoming, because we wanted to invite all the local bands, you know, from Stark County to perform. So apparently that caught wind, because we had someone reach out to us saying, hey, we want to be a part of it too. And I just think it's fitting now with this situation. It's fitting, and it's great that they want to participate with very minimal cost. So I think that's great as well, because it wouldn't be a huge cost to the city either, because they're wanting to do this for the city, for the community.
So let's put something together as far as what are some of the ideas that, how can we still practice social distancing, but at the same time have this type of event? I mean, what are some of the suggestions? What are some of the ideas, creative ideas to be able to do this?
Well,
Arlington
is doing a concert in your car, so they're letting people, you know, go inside, park, and they can enjoy the music in their car, and you know, and they have a pickup truck. They can be in the hood of the truck, in the back of the truck. I know Intocable is also going to have a concert where they're doing something similar, like a drive-in.
Like a drive-in style?
Drive-in style, and you know, people can be around their vehicle and such. But who knows, by July, maybe, you know.
Okay.
Can we look at some dates, or Sarah, what would be good in July? Are you looking at the second, third weekend, or the last weekend?
Probably the third weekend, in the 20s. Because typically, since we would do it the June, we would have done it June 27th. So maybe for July, it would be like July 25th or the 18th, just depending on what you guys think.
Mr. Hernandez, could we consider if we move this concert to the end of July, could we possibly consider maybe still having the fireworks by the 4th, so people can have something to view from their vehicles or whatnot, and bring back the concert later in July?
Yeah, we could do just the fireworks show. That's also an option. I can check with the vendor to see if they have the 4th of July available, because I know that's a busy day.
Busy day. Okay.
Okay. Anything else on that? All right. Well, thank you, Ms. Hernandez. Thank you for that. And if we can go ahead and consider local vendors as well. I know we've used some of the radio stations from outside our area, but if you can look at, I know Estrellas as something to consider, if not, some of the, any of the other local vendors that we can potentially use, and see what need to offer as well.
Yes, I know they did reach out to me as well over the weekend, wanting to elaborate in any way they can with the project, and we're more than willing to take any help at this point.
Okay.
So we'll definitely work something out with that for sure.
All right. Thank you,
Next
Ms.
one up is Mr. Cruz. I think he's got a retirement or two. Mr. Cruz?
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. Yes, we have Mr. Baldo Basan, who's retiring after 17 years. He retired last week, actually. We were going to announce him during the meeting. Unfortunately, because of the current situation, we talked to him, and hopefully when we're able to all get back together, we want to bring him back so that we can award him his plaque. I know Cindy's planning a lunch with all the staff just to honor him and congratulate him on his years of service. So once we get that date set, I'll let all the commissioners and obviously let you know, Mayor, as well too, so that if you guys can attend, we'd be more than happy to have you there for him. And then once we're able to regroup and actually meet in person, we'll bring him back to the in front of the council to honor him with the plaque.
Mr. Cruz,
Congratulations.
yes, congratulations, Mr. Cruz. I was going to say maybe we could also put a little write-up and a picture of them on our, of course, city webpage also to recognize them there as well.
Yes, sir. I'll get with Ashley tomorrow morning on that.
Thank you.
That Mr. Cruz?
I just want to say, maybe you can do a little video with Ms. Custer and him and put it in our webpage and Facebook and all that.
Yeah, he's
Retirement.
very humble man. He actually just kind of wanted to, you
Right
know,
into the sunset.
yeah. But we wanted to honor him, so we asked him to come back. He said he'd be more than willing to come back and do that. But we are planning a lunch for him, so I'll let everyone know so that hopefully you guys can attend. Also, as I'm sure the mayor spoke a little bit about earlier, we purchased 2 6-inch mobile pumps, and we purchased them just in time as some of this rain that we received these last couple of days. The only thing we were waiting for was the hosing, which we received this morning. And so our guys were testing it out this morning, getting trained on those pumps. So we're in preparation for hurricane season. It's right upon us. As you can tell, we've already had some rains. And so as the department working alongside with Public Works and all the other departments, we're just getting prepared for hurricane season. I think these 2 6-inch mobile pumps are going to be very valuable if we experience some more flooding, and that'll help us out.
I know we had crews out all morning, actually all day yesterday, as a result of this torrential rains that we had, and identified some of the areas where there was flooding on the streets. Make sure that Mr. Perez, Mr. Cruz, Mr. Barrera, maybe next week we can visit with county officials as well. Be looking at the drainage and what it is that we can address some of those flooding areas. I know that Chaparral, for example, there was some flooding there. I understand that the majority, of course, it's outside city limits. Things with Las Lomas, outside city limits. However, let's see what we can do in working with the county to help them address and mitigate some of those areas, and how to coordinate the plan to bring some relief to those areas too, in collaboration with the county. So maybe next week we can set up a meeting and begin those conversations. Apply for grants if possible, but let's see what we can do, Mr. Perez, on that note. I know the crews were out and about surveying. I know we took some drone footage as well. So in light of hurricane season and everything that's coming, coordinate all that, Mr. Perez, Mr. Cruz, Mr. Barrera, concerns, and alleviate and mitigate some of those situations for residents of city and county.
Yes, sir.
Okay, next up is Ms. Guillen. Do you want to touch on what you have been doing or working on and reopening the businesses?
Yes, Mayor, Commissioners, I want to thank you and, of course, our EDC board members for your support and confidence in our efforts during this pandemic. The outbreak provided us opportunities to rethink our service delivery and quickly adapt to new strategies, which have resulted in stronger ties with our business community. Our office continues to focus on providing them with the news and information and resources that they need, as well as providing general advice and referrals as requested. Our pandemic response efforts have included installing a dedicated web page for critical and timely information, an online directory of local restaurants offering curbside pickup or delivery, creating and distributing complimentary thank you shop local tags, creating and distributing a financial impact business survey, which closed on Friday. We're putting those, analyzing those results as we speak. Creating and distributing an emergency loan comparison chart, as well as hosting virtual town halls and symposium, live streaming vital state and national webinars on our social media channels. We put more details on these activities in your meeting packet for your review. But as Mr. Bettis mentioned, most recently we've been working with our city's code enforcement team on reopening initiatives, including the distribution of our commitment to keep our community COVID-19 free form. It provides guidelines for keeping everyone safe at the workplace, as well as introducing the City of Rio Grande City Top Rated Business Practice Campaign. This launched and has been received very well by the business community. It provides window decals for those who have met and exceeded recommended COVID-19 safety guidelines. And we've got a running list of those businesses who've earned the decal on our website. And we appreciate all those businesses who are doing their part to keep their employees and customers safe in our community, and encourage those that are doing this to request a complimentary inspection from our compliance and code enforcement team. So we understand that it takes all of us to ensure the safe reopening of our economy. And so we're trying our best to make sure that everyone has the information they need, and of course the recognition to instill that confidence in the consumers to go out and support the local community.
Thank you for those efforts, Ms. Guillen. I know that I've been part of several of those in businesses in promoting those decals and promoting these practices that are going above and beyond the minimum standards. And it's great to see that business owners are taking the initiative to they themselves pursuing above and beyond standards as set forth, above and beyond the minimum standards set forth by the state. So for them to do this, it only bodes well about the businesses and the efforts that they're taking on to protect their customers. And for the commissioners, by the way, if you're interested in delivering some of these decals and part of those business videos, please, I encourage you to be part of that. It's wonderful to talk to the business owners that are doing this for the sake of our community, and doing a tremendous job. So kudos to all the business owners that are taking on this added responsibility, this added efforts to safeguard the health and wellness of our community and going above and beyond. And we can't say enough about that. And our numbers still remain low here in Stark County, Rio Grande City. So, and it's because of those efforts that businesses are doing and people in general are following the practices. So let's continue to spearhead that campaign again, because it's critical that businesses continue to practice safe protocols and extend them. And the same thing as I was mentioning to commissioners, if you all want to be part of that, please, I encourage you to talk to Mr. Gilbert Milan, and he can go ahead and schedule some of these so you can be part of those recognitions for those businesses. And thank you, Ms. Guillen, for all the efforts that EDC has done and our EDC board to continue to promote business and the economic recovery that's right in front of us. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Mayor. And of course, we couldn't do this without your support. And we know that as businesses are reopening, they're coming to us for guidance, and we have checklists available for them to help them through the reopening process. And I know that there's some businesses out there that are still a little scared to reopen, but we are working through those issues to regain their confidence in a safe reopening. for the betterment of our economy. And so that's something we continue to work on with the city commission, as well as our partners throughout the city and the county.
Thank you, Ms. Gia.
Next one up is, he paused us. Mr. Barrera, you're on. Mr. Barrera was in a meeting today. We're looking at lending out our city tent as the COVID-19 test site is being relocated. Hector, you want to talk about that?
Yes, good evening, Mayor and Commission. I attended a meeting at the county park. We're gonna be installing our EDC tent at Ringo County Park. Police Department, Fire Department, City of Roma, Fire Department from Roma, they're attending to this testing site. So we're gonna be installing our tent Friday morning.
And what's happening is the site from STC will be moved over to the county park. So the testing will not be occurring at the county park as per conversation with Dr. Vasquez and Judge Vega. And of course, it's still a county-wide effort. So municipalities across the county are helping in this endeavor, providing police as well as different departments to spearhead the safety and security of materials in the tent and whatnot. So we will still have a testing site, but it will be located at the county park.
Yeah, Ringo County Park.
Yes.
This is gonna be on Monday.
Thank you, Hector.
Thank you.
Next one.
By the way,
Next one up is-
thank you, Mr. Barrera, for being out there. I know your crew was out and about all day and the last couple of days to address the flooding that occurred. Thank you for that, sir. And let's continue working on making sure we're prepared for any potential hurricane coming up this summer. But thank you to you and your staff for being out there, sir. Certainly appreciate it.
Thank you. We still got a lot to go for cleaning all that. So
Sir, we
Yeah.
keep growing, and so thank you, sir. I know it's a difficult challenge. It's a challenge. So, but thank you, sir, for the work that you're doing to you and your staff.
thank you.
Hector, do you want to mention the end of month cleanup?
Yes. Well, right now we're at the end of. This is the last week of the month, so we'll be there till Friday. If anyone wants to throw something, we're at the 14 acres from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m.
That is
Thank you,
also at
Hector.
the end of every month. And just because of the flooding that did occur, just to make sure that we're out and about the city in case any residents threw out any carpeting or any of items that might have gotten wet, make sure we help them with that, or if not, of course, encourage them to go throw them at the 14 acres if need be. But
Yes, if I have somebody, I can let them go in and we'll help with that. Even though if it's like day of the month, let them go.
thank you.
And I'd like to thank Water Department and planning for sandbags. That was a real good help.
It's a collective effort.
Yes.
Hector, how many tires were cut last month?
Last month we cut about maybe like 120 some tires.
Wow, quite a bit of tires.
Yes, and that was only the first week. The last week came in through the citywide cleanup.
Yeah.
Thank you, Hector.
Thank you.
Next one up is Mr. Cantu. Mr. Cantu and I had a two meetings today. One with Standard & Poor's, and then followed by a later meeting with the underwriters. I'll let Mr. Cantu go into the details about our meeting.
Yes, good evening, Mayor, Councilman. Yeah, like Mr. Perez said, the CEO's process is moving forward. Today we had two meetings. One of them was with S&P for the bond rating, and the other was a due diligence call. I am pretty confident that both calls went very well. I don't know if you guys remember, we got an A rating last time we did our bond rating for the refunding of our last bonds that we refunded towards the end of last year. So this one, I want to congratulate Mr. Perez. I think he did an excellent job on that call. So I think we're hoping we can get a better than an A this time around. I know it's real close as we got the last rating, but I think they were impressed with everything they heard today. Everything around Rio Grande City is looking promising. So hopefully they get us a better rating this time around. If not, we'll keep that A for now. We're confident that we can get better ratings in the future, but we'll see how that goes. And I think that was it. Also, I just want a quick update on the sales taxes for the city. They have been going down a little bit. It hasn't been that big of a hit for us. I guess the small businesses have been doing really good. So we've seen, I know towards February before the COVID hit us, we're around 10% increase from last year. We've seen some decreases in the past 2 months on the sales taxes, but we're still at a 5% increase from last year's sales taxes. So we're still good. We'll see where we're at this coming month. I think it's going to be the one that's going to let us know where we're going to be at, because it's the one that's going to give us the sales taxes for April, which was the month that everything was pretty much closed around the city.
Yeah. Well, thank you,
Thank you,
Mr.
Mr.
Mr. Perez. Thank you for that. I know that going back to an A bond rating, when we obtained that A bond rating, highly of where we're at and how our fiduciary responsibilities and how serious we've been with those responsibilities, and to be in a very good position financially speaks volumes about the direction that the city is headed. And I like the idea that even though we have a tremendous rating, that we're still striving to get even better, because I know that the AAA rating at some point might be the ideal goal, but A bond rating is great. However, thank you for wanting to go above and beyond just these, even though they're great. Again, an A bond rating speaks volumes about the position we're in. However, we want to be in an even better position. So thank you for having that foresight and initiative to want to be even better. And again, it speaks volumes of where we're at and the staff that we have. And I have confidence that we are going to get a better rating as we move forward, and continuing to pursue that ideal that Rio Grande City is in a place that we are considered to be able to meet all our debt obligations and beyond. So thank you, gentlemen, for that. And of course, all the staff, your staff members, Ms. Ramirez, and everyone in the county and the department. So thank you for that strong showing of our finances.
And by the way, I just forgot to mention, we should be receiving those bond ratings by June the 11th. So we should know by then where we're at.
Mayor, I'd like to add, this is a team effort. Of course, Mr. Cantu and I worked on it, but we also had the council and the commissioners and the mayor's support when we talked about the policies that we just introduced through you guys, that you approved. Those policies, the investment policies, the grant policies, all those go a long ways. So this is a team effort. Of course, we couldn't do it by ourselves. So all those things are steps in the right direction, and giving them confidence that we're headed still in the right direction and we have a bright future. I wouldn't doubt it. Some of those underwriters might want to relocate to Rio Grande City, because I really saw.
Hey, we're open for business.
Right.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it either.
All right. Anyone else from the department heads? I think we're good, Mayor.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Perez. Thank you to all the department heads and all the staff. Certainly bodes very well of all the tremendous effort that our staff are pursuing simultaneously while dealing with a global pandemic and still being able to have an eye on the prize as far as promoting the city and the businesses and the efforts for growth and prosperity. So I know it's been a difficult challenge handling this global pandemic, but not stopping there and continuing to do business, continuing to conduct business and promoting Rio Grande City and moving our city forward. So thank you. I know it hasn't been easy to handle, both a global pandemic of, again, epic proportions, but yet still being able to maintain the services and standards for our residents, as well as continue to look forward beyond 2020, but the future of Rio Grande City. So thank you for that. Moving on to consent agenda. This time we have letter 2A, approval of minutes from previous meetings, and letter 2B, approval of Rio Grande City Public Library 5-year long-range plan as required by the Texas State Library and Archives Commission. Now we have Ms. Foltz.
Yes, Mayor, Commissioners. This is a plan, a 5-year plan that we need to work on and it's part of our accreditation. There's a technology plan that was approved already in December. And then part of that is the long-range plan. So what are the goals for the library in the next 5 years? We're also encouraged to have community representatives to help put this plan together. And before we start, I would like to give a special thanks to MC Lopez, Thelma Guerrero, and Esther Salinas. And the areas that we're looking into are, of course, our collection development and programming. Collection development is everything from our books to magazines to DVDs, all kinds of materials that go into our collection. So we have some goals on there, and then in technology as well, in our partnerships, which we have very solid partnerships with the school district and our local educational institutions, and our marketing staff goals, our facility, which we have outgrown, and so these are the plans that I present to you for your consideration and approval of our 5-year plan for 2020 to 2025.
Thank you, Ms. Foltz. And can't say enough about our library. I mean, y'all do a tremendous job, even at a global pandemic, and certainly to be recognized in the top 10% of public libraries in the state of Texas. That bodes wonderful for your staff and what you do and the service that you provide to our kiddos and adults and all the services to educate the public. So thank you for the work that you do. At this time, is there a motion for approve this consent agenda, items 2A to B?
Are we here?
All
I
right.
make a motion, Mayor, to
Okay.
approve.
Did you make the motion?
I'll second the motion, Mayor.
Okay, we have a motion to approve item 2 consent agenda, items 2A and 2B by Commissioner Jones, second by Commissioner Ramirez. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed, raise your left hand. Motion carries. At this
Thank you,
time, if no
Mayor.
one objects, I would like to move to executive session. There's no objection. This time we'll move on to executive session. It is 6:51 or 6:50 p.m. 8:20 p.m. And returning back to item 3, letter A, hold a discussion and provide update on the reapplication of 150 kg Garcia Street.
Mayor and Commissioners, for that one, we got Mr. Cruz. He's got some information that he's secured from the folks that have been working on the tanks. This is a tank that was previously left out by design, and so he'd like to bring it up to you guys for discussion.
Go ahead, Mr. Cruz.
Hey, Mayor, Commissioner, so this item was originally, as we were told by staff and Michael Brooke, this tank, for whatever reason, was left out by the previous administration.
Mr. Cruz, we can't hear you, sir.
I'm sorry, can you hear me now?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, I apologize. I went through my whole spiel for nothing. So maybe about a couple months ago, Commissioner Ramirez wanted us to look into this tank. It's the one that's on Los Garcia's tank. Now that tank has been abandoned for a couple years. It wasn't originally included in the original scope of all the tanks that we had because the previous administration decided they didn't want to incorporate it. They were going to abandon it entirely. After meeting with staff,
This conference will now be
after
recorded.
meeting with staff, Mr. Perez, Michael Brooke, and our engineers, we got a cost estimate, and as you'll see in your notes, we got a cost estimate of what it would cost for us to take down that tank. I know Commissioner Ramirez wanted, and everything today is just discussion. There's nothing that's set in stone that we have to vote on or anything like that. It's just so that you guys understand, get the full scope of what's going on. So that tank, the cost of possibly taking it down is going to be about maybe 150, close to $200,000. Renovating it will probably be about $250,000 to $300,000. Now, let's keep in mind that city's growing. We have a lot of expansion going on. And after meeting with our engineers and our staff, they said, look, for whatever reason, the previous administration, they wanted to leave that tank out, but we need that tank. And if we have that tank at full capacity, that's going to help with the pressure throughout the city. Now, if we, let's say, decide to demolish that tank, and then later on decide to build that tank in a couple of years or 10 years down the road, you're looking at spending in excess of over $1 million. Now, I know I have Mr. Michael Brooke on here as well, too, and he can give you his professional expertise on where we're sitting with all this. But all I wanted to do today was just bring this to the table after meeting with Commissioner Ramirez, and we had some discussions with staff on this tank and what the plans were. Obviously, we can demolish it because I know some of the citizens there have said that they're worried that at any point it could just fall or it'll just give out on them, and they're obviously worried about that it'll affect them. But after doing some research, meeting with staff, meeting with our engineers, their idea is that if we demolish this tank, we'll be losing in the long run because you have an actual structure there that can be brought back to life for a little bit more than what it's going to cost to actually demolish the tank. Mr. Brooke, did I say that right? Is he on there?
What are some of the actual
Yes.
numbers?
Yeah, it's 300,000 probably to rehab.
Hello, what are the actual numbers? So can you provide us some numbers? How much would it cost to renovate it, let's say? I mean, that's an accurate figure or
So
estimation?
I don't have an accurate exact number, but you're looking at about 300,000 if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct, Mr. Brooke? More or less?
Yes.
Okay.
Let me look
And
to rehab the tank is approximately is at $301,600.
Now, have you looked at the tank already and that is an estimate figure, or you still haven't looked at the tank to give us an accurate figure? I mean, where are we as far as the number itself? How accurate is it based on your analysis of the tank?
That's a proposal number. I have climbed the tank. I've inspected the tank 2 years ago. And that's when they said, well, don't worry about that tank. We're not putting it back in service. You know, it'll be demolished in the future. And at that time, I advised them that you don't want to tear down water storage unless you have a tank that's already sitting there to go back up, or that you have an abundance of water. I don't know where you're at technically with TCEQ on the 85% rule, but I just know, you know, I haven't been down here in 4 months, and I'm here now. And I mean, things have been completed and things are underway to be built. So you're going to expand. You're a growing city. To do away with water and then have to come back, as Steve said, in 3 or 4 years and determine that, oh, now we're 200,000 gallons short, or we're 100,000 gallons short, we have to build a new standpipe or a new tank or etc. Then you're at a position where you're throwing money after something that could be fixed now and in service, and as Steve said, fix your water pressure system that you have issues with. That tank is at one of the highest points in the city and would do a lot for your pressure.
Mr. Brooke, the question is, how sure are you about the estimate, and are we not gonna get into fixing or rehabbing this tank and all of a sudden we end up with another 100,000 added to the cost?
The riser, and replace the riser totally. That's a large expense, but that's already figured in. And we went back when Steve brought this up to me last month and relooked at everything, and this is the price it is.
And we don't expect
there should be
surprises is the question.
No, because the tank was empty when I looked at the tank before, it was empty. So I could see the floor, I could see the ceiling, I could see everything.
Okay.
Mr. Brooke, I have a question. Could that price be incorporated into the original contract so that we can pay over time, like we do with the other tank?
It had no water in it. It hasn't had water in it. So we could actually see.
Did you get that question by Commissioner Ramirez
Sorry.
about the financing of it?
Yeah, we can finance. I mean, that's the price. We can work out how you want to finance it. If you want to build it into the full service maintenance plan you have now, if you have monies, or it can be added in or it can be done separately, it would still fall under a full service maintenance plan in the future, if that's what you want.
I would prefer that we consider incorporating that amount into the original contract to pay over time, as opposed to a lump sum or a short period of time.
Yes, sir. That's completely, all we have to do is figure out how long you want to do it for.
Okay.
Does that include painting of the tank as well?
Completely, it's a total rehab of that tank. Now the city actually needs to do a little bit of plumbing work underneath to reconnect some pipes that have been disconnected.
Yeah, and to add to what he's saying, Mayor, I've met out there on site with Enrique and our engineer, and apparently they had said years ago that they were willing to do this and they can do the work. Like I said, they were given other directions previously, and so for whatever reason now we're here, and I just want to bring it to the table because I know Commissioner Ramirez, we had talked about it I think a month ago, and so I just wanted to bring you the full scope of where we're at. We can look at tearing it down, but for the cost, I mean, and for obviously the pressure and the future expansion of the city, it's probably in our best interest to rehab it. But it's not something that we need to jump on now. I know Mr. Brooke, and we're meeting him today, he said, look, propose it, they can look at it, think about it, and we can come back with this at a later date. I just want to put it on the table so that we can discuss it and see what our options are, what direction the commission wants us to take.
I think it's a great idea, Mr. Cruz, and I urge all the commissioners to consider adding this project to the original contract.
Yeah, and based on the conversation, it appears that the commission would be willing to, it makes fiduciary sense to rehab it now as opposed to several years down the road, especially something that's already there, and we can just rehab it and utilize it. Because the fact is that we're continuing to grow. Growth is going to continue here in Rio Grande City, and water is a necessity, and it's a necessity or commodity. So it makes sense to take care of that now. But at this point, is it in any jeopardy of collapsing at this point?
No, sir.
Okay.
No, sir.
I think that's just a fear.
And
that
I
some
will
of the
stop by
residents-
tomorrow.
Interference, Mr. Brooke.
I think that's just a fear, Mayor, that some of the residents in the area have. I know with speaking with
Sorry,
Commissioner
I'll stop by.
that's just a fear that some of them have. But I know Mr. Brooke he's actually in town, and I want to just acknowledge as well too. We called him last week because we had a leak at the Garcia Street tank, and he responded with their crews out here. So they've been out here as of last week trying to fix another tank that we have that had a leak. So I made a phone call. Within that 2 days later, they were down here, and they've been down here all week. I'm sorry, it's the Eisenhower tank on the Eisenhower tank, the 1 million tank on Eisenhower. So they're responding, fixing that one as well too. And that tank was programmed on year 10 to get a full rehab, get the full maintenance on it. But what Mr. Brooke, and talking with him today, is said, look, Steve, based on the poor, situation that this tank is in, I'm going to move it up to probably year 2, which might be as early as this fall, if not late fall. And then if we get this one in, he might be able to do both at the same time. So really, the city is benefiting because we're getting a lot of these tanks fully fixed, fully restored early in the contract.
Refresh my memory, how many tanks are in operation right now?
We have 10 that are on the contract.
And this would be the 11th tank in operation if we get it back online.
If I'm not mistaken, am I correct in saying that, Mr. Brooke? How many do we have on the contract?
Well, as far as operational tanks, how many
Yeah.
tanks
I think
are in
there's
full operation?
9 on the contract.
Okay, so this would be
9.
10.
You have 9. This would be the 10th.
Okay. 150,000 gallon tank, you said.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other questions, commissioners, or anything else on this?
What's the status on the logo on the tank?
It'll be painted this fall. We don't want you to have to drain. Our art guy that does that was not available, and we don't want you to drain the tank in the middle of summer to paint a logo.
Okay.
I mean, it doesn't make sense for you guys to be down another 1.5 million gallons of water for a week.
All right.
We have to.
Okay.
I have to take into consideration your water supply, which I think is pretty important that you keep it as much as possible because you already have pressure issues. So I think this fall when we come down, we can lower that tank down and keep it at a low point and get the logo painted.
Thank you. So let's look at, I guess, as a commission.
Like I said, I'll be there.
Okay. You can take a look at it just to make sure that fears of collapsing, but it seems that the commission is in agreement to move forward on rehabbing that tank and utilizing as the city continues to grow.
What I'll do, Mayor, is I will personally go out there with Mr. Brooke tomorrow. Obviously, he's going to go out there again and do another analysis of the tank. And I will come back at the next meeting and bring you more concrete numbers. That way we can actually have some concrete numbers to vote on and look at. Everything's preliminary right now. That's why I didn't want I just wanted for discussion so that you know what's going on and you're not in the dark as far as that tank itself. But if you give me a chance, let me get concrete numbers and I can bring that to the commission next meeting for a vote, if possible.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments, commissioners, on that? Good. Okay, moving on to next item. Thank you, Mr. Brooke.
Thank you. I'll sign off now.
Thank you. Next item is item 3B, discussion and possible action related to the city of Rio Grande City's response to the COVID-19 pandemic, including but not limited to extending the city's disaster declaration until June 19, 2020, and adopting the city's fourth amended order number 2020-1D, instituting emergency measures due to a public health emergency. Item 3B. Mr. Perez, where are we with?
Mayor and Commissioners, let me make sure I have my mic on. This is part of the CARE Act. This is so that the funds can be made available to the city. As you know, some funds are being passed on from the federal government to the state, and then to the counties, and then to the city. And we've been allocated at $55 per capita, which equates to about 827,000 plus. The first piece of the puzzle is you submit you do the declaration, you submit the request, and they will release 20% of the allocated amount, which is 165,539. I'll let Chief Moniece add to that. Are you available, Chief Moniece?
Yes, sir.
Okay, can I say something real quick? The item 3B, that one is for the order number
The
1D.
pandemic?
Yes. The other COVID that Mr. Perez is talking about is the resolution.
Okay.
So item 3B, Mayor, is for the order number 2021-D, which is the extending of the declaration.
Extending the declaration.
Yes.
And bottom line, we're not done with this COVID-19. So at this, our city commission needs to, of course, look at it, extending the declaration, and of course, continuing with the protocols and orders as per the governor's office, and of course, the county judge, and continuing with all the safe protocols, and maintaining, of course, the social distancing, the recommendation of wearing face coverings and sanitizing. And remember that we do have a campaign for all the businesses to continue to promote all these practices, including going above and beyond the minimum state. So it behooves us to continue and not letting our guard down to make sure that we continue this minimizing the spread of COVID-19. If you're aware, we have more cases, and in fact, there were several cases reported today as well. If I'm not mistaken, there were several other cases reported. So the numbers keep increasing. So it's imperative that we maintain an eye on this and making sure that we continue minimizing that spread of COVID-19 by following all the protocols and extending the declaration and so on. Anything else to add, Mr. Perez?
No, that's it. It's right. Just trying to ensure that we continue with the social distancing and all the best practices that we put in place, and hoping that everybody continues to follow them to keep us safe and healthy.
And by and large, people here have done a tremendous job in Stark County as a whole. People are complying, maintaining the safe protocols, and we just urge the public to continue. Let's not let the guard down and go back to the old way of doing business. Let's continue with these practices. Let's continue having that urgency or sense of urgency to minimize this spread by following all the protocols and wait in a safe manner. While at the same time, I know we're reopening. and we are moving in that direction, but let's do it in a safe manner, in a way that minimizes the spread. So it's imperative that we follow suit with this. Anything else that you all would like to add, commissioners, on this before we? And the idea is, of course, look at it through the 19th, and then depending on what the governor's orders are going to be, keep in mind we continue to modify this as we go, as the governor puts out new orders, as well as the judge. So we're, in a sense, we're looking at how do we maintain very similar to all the protocols being followed through the state and the county as well. Anything else, or at this time would like to entertain a motion at this time with this?
Mayor, I move that we approve this item, Mayor, as presented.
Okay, we have a motion to approve item 3B, extending the order of disaster declaration until June the 19th, 2020 by Commissioner Ramirez.
I second.
Second.
Have a second by Commissioner Flores. Any further discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Make sure the camera sees it. All those opposed, raise your left hand. Okay, motion carries. Next item or business and orders, item 4, resolutions. Letter A, discussion and possible action to approve resolution number 2020-15A, amending for clarification previously adopted resolution number 2020-15, which authorized the submission of a application for funding through Operation Stone Garden 2019, U.S. Department of Homeland Security for grant period 1/11/2020 to 4/1/2021. Mr. Perez.
Mayor, this is Chief
Commissioner,
Castillo.
for that one, Chief Castillo.
Okay, Chief.
Hey, Mayor, this is Chief Castillo. This is just the change of dates. They changed because of all the things that are going on. So this resolution was already adopted. It just needs amending and changing the date to what it states, or January 1st, 2020 to April 1st, 2021.
Okay, do we have a motion?
I so move to approve, Mayor.
Okay, we have a motion to approve by Commissioner Jones. We have a second.
I second.
We have a second by Commissioner Flores. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed, raise your left hand. Okay, motion carries. Next item is 4B, is discussion and possible action to approve resolution number 2020-5A, amending for clarification previously adopted resolution number 2020-5, which authorized the submission of a grant through the Homeland Security Grant Division FY 2020 Border Zone Fire Department Grant.
Mayor,
Mayor,
Commissioners, for that one, we got Chief Moniece.
Mayor, just for the record, I voted for on that last agenda item.
Yes.
Okay.
I saw your hand, Commissioners. But yes, for the record, Commissioner Garza did vote yay on item 4A. Moving on. No, are we in 4B?
Moniece?
Chief Moniece?
Yes, sir. Good evening, Commissioner, Mayor. Yes, this is a previously adopted resolution that was adopted previously. The only changes here is there was on the whereas the grantee authorized official will need to be changed from the fire chief to the city manager. That's the only clarification that needs to be changed on this.
Okay. This time, do we entertain a motion?
Yes, Mayor, I move to approve item 4B.
Okay, we have a motion to approve by Commissioner Flores.
Second.
Have a second by Commissioner Jones. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Opposed, raise your left hand. Motion carries. Next is item C, discussion and possible action to approve resolution number 2020-17, authorizing the city manager to close the Logic solid waste account and transferring account balance to public utility operating account.
Mayor and Commissioners, this is the Finance Department continuing to do a cleanup job on accounts that are not being used. We got Mr. Cantu, are you on the line?
I don't think he's on the line.
Okay, all it is an account that's not being used anymore since we no longer have those facilities or services, and he's just trying to clean up the records.
Okay. We entertain a motion at this time.
At the moment, that we approve item 4C.
Okay, we have a motion to approve item 4C by Commissioner Ramirez. We have a second.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Flores. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Opposed, raise your left hand. Motion carries. Next item is D4D, discussion and possible action to approve resolution number 2020-18, supporting the submission of a grant application to the Office of the Governor for the Rio Grande City COVID-19 project under the Coronavirus Emergency Supplement Funding Program. Mr. Perez?
Mayor, Commissioner, that's the one I got ahead of myself. That's the actual funding. So this is the submittal process. We're looking at, again, I mentioned earlier, 827,000 plus. The first 20% equates to 165,539 being made available upon submission. And this is all to take care of the COVID-19 expenses.
So really all the expenses related to COVID-19.
Yes, sir.
Okay, do we entertain a motion at this time?
Yes, Mayor, I move to approve item 4D.
We have a motion to approve item 4D by Commissioner Flouted.
I'll second the motion, Mayor.
We have a second by Commissioner Ramirez. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed, raise your left hand. Motion carries. Next item is under item 5, contracts and agreements, letter A, discussion and possible action to approve contract modification, clarify certain inconsistent terms included in an existing contract between the City of Rio Grande City and Grande Garbage, previously entered into on September 28, 2015, for solid waste collection and disposal service. Item 5. Mr. Perez, anything on this?
Mayor, Commissioner, Mr. Villarreal, are you available?
Yes, I'm here. And basically what this does here, Mayor, we previously discussed the issue with the contract with Grande Garbage. There were two conflicting terms. On one, it had an ending date, and another one, it did not. It ran indefinite. So what we've done, we've clarified that. Now you will have, the city will have a definite date when this contract will end, and with the option of one extension only. And it is very specific now. You know when this contract or your obligations to this vendor will terminate. Prior to this correction that the commission is looking at, there were conflicting terms as previously stated to the commission, and it could have been litigated without end because you had a contract that did not have a definite ending date. This clarifies that portion of the contract. It's the only thing that's being changed. At the previous meeting, you wanted legal to correct that issue. We have everything else in the contract that the city signed in 2015. That contract is still alive. It's the same contract, and all you're doing is correcting the term. Now you have a definite ending date on it. And so we reviewed it. We forwarded it over to Ms. Garza, Melissa, and we feel confident that it is now a solid contract for the city.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Villarreal. Any other questions or comments, commissioners?
No, Mayor, I would just like to thank Mr. Villarreal for addressing those issues and clarifying those for us. And with that, I would like to make a motion to approve a contract modification to clarify certain inconsistent terms, included in an existing contract between the City of Rio Grande City and Grande Garbage Company, previously entered into on September 28th of 2015 for solid waste collection and disposal services.
Okay, we have a motion to approve by Commissioner Ramirez,
Second.
a second by Commissioner Flores. Any further discussion on this item? No further discussion. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Opposed, raise your left hand. Okay, motion carries. Next item is item 5B, discussion and possible action to approve change order number 1 to Grande Construction for Rio Grande City EDA grant 0801-05074 Creek Work.
Commissioners, this is an extension request coming from Grande. Given the rain delays that we've had, they're asking for a 30-day extension. This 30-day extension still will allow us to submit all the paperwork in time because the EDA grant ends in August 31st. So the 30 days should not affect us in doing our part at the end when the project's completed. I don't know if Ms. Baez is on the line, if she'd like to add any more to it.
Yes, she's on the line.
Hello, Ms. Baez.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Good
Good
evening, sir. As Mr. Perez mentioned, the extension will not create any difficulties for us to complete the obligations to EDA. It is something that staff and engineers feel that it is needed for the contractor to finish the work. I mean, we had a conference call this morning, and they tried to repair from the previous rains, and it to no avail because the rains that came on the Monday night just did away with any repairs. So this is extenuating circumstances they have no control over. So we are recommending that you consider approval of this change order to extend the contract by 30 days.
And this won't affect anything regarding our contract with St. Ives Development as far as them coming back and saying we didn't meet our obligation?
No, sir.
The St. Ives obligations, which are under the 380 agreement, that is obligates the city to complete the creek work. The deadline that we have is with EDA for the August 31st, but with St. Ives, we don't have a set date deadline.
Okay, so then we're good. We won't be impacted any which way, whether it's EDA or developer or anything like that. Okay. All right, so we entertain a motion at this time, or any other questions before we move on? If not, do we have a motion?
So move to approve, Mayor.
Okay, we have a motion to approve by Commissioner Jones. Do we have a second?
I'll second the motion, Mayor.
I have a second by Commissioner Ramirez. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Okay, opposed, raise your left hand. Motion carries. Next item is 5C, discussion and possible action to approve a uniform subdivision non-standard water sewer agreement between the City of Rio Grande City and Rio Grande Village for the St. Ives subdivision.
Mayor, Commissioners, this is to clear up some questions that come up as to who's responsible for maintaining the common areas such as the streets in the development, and I'll let Ms. Baez add to that.
Mayor and Commissioners, the last time this agreement was presented, I know that you had asked that where in the document was the language that would make the developer or hold any of the tenants responsible to maintain and repair any damages on the common access. Since then, the day after the meeting from April 1st, we received the covenants and restrictions. I did provide a copy to City Secretary so she could pass it on to you all. In those covenants and restrictions, pages 4 through 8, it establishes the whole process to repair what they call the critical access drive. and any utility repairs that happen to occur on those drives. So this agreement will, along with the covenant restrictions, will cover the concerns that the council had the last time this was presented.
Really, it's the concerns of any potholes, or things of that nature that they themselves are gonna have to fix and not depend on the city having to go in. Aside from the street that belong, of course, ours, that one we will have to maintain, correct?
That is correct. The Rattler Drive right now, as it is named, that is right now a public street, and any repairs after, that occur, those will fall on the city to take care of.
But the others will be okay.
All the ones you see that are being constructed towards the highway, those will fall to the developer and the tenants.
It's really to avoid the situation here at Jack in the Box, where sometimes there's that huge hole in that area. And of course, that's private property, so the city is not authorized to go into that or repair that area. And we want to avoid those situations in this new development. So with that being said, do we entertain a motion at this time?
I move to approve item 5C, Mayor.
We have a motion to approve by Commissioner Flores. You have a second?
I'll second, Mayor.
We have a second by Commissioner Ramirez. Any further discussion? None. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed, raise your left hand. Motion carries. Next item is 6, appointment and memberships, letter A. Discussion and possible action to reappoint members to the Rio Grande City 4B Economic Development Corporation.
Mayor and Commissioners, the membership of the board is up. I've got Ms. Guillen to talk about those details.
Yes,
Okay.
in your packet, you have the list of appointments with their terms, and we have up for appointment Mr. Hernan Garza III, Dr. Javier Jake Margo, Mr. Fred Lopez, and Ms. Flor Flores.
So, Mayor, I would like to make a motion to approve those nominations. Mr. Commissioner Garza, Dr. Margo, Mr. Lopez, and Commissioner Flores.
Okay, we have a motion to approve by Commissioner Ramirez. We have a second.
I second, Mayor.
Have a second by Commissioner Jones. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed, raise your left hand. Motion carries. Next item is 8, which was letter A, 8A, discussion and possible action regarding personnel matters. And there was no action on that item. And moving on to item 8B, discussion and possible action regarding the contract of the city attorney, including but not limited to amending the existing agreement. 8B. We have a motion at this time.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve item 8B, as discussed in executive session, to award Garcia a 2-year contract.
Okay. We have a motion to approve item 8B
Second.
by Commissioner Ramirez, second by Commissioner Jones. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed, raise your left hand. Carries. Mr. Villarreal, congratulations, sir. It's been great to be working with you as an attorney, and you've done a tremendous job helping the city be in the position we're in, particularly with all the legal advice and expertise that you have bestowed upon the city and brought to accessibility to our staff. So thank you for what you do, sir, and congratulations on this well-deserved 2-year contract.
Thank you, Mayor, and Commissioner, for giving us the opportunity. Again, it's a privilege to work with you and the commission, and I'll state it publicly also. that before I actually got involved with the city and doing this kind of work, I did not appreciate much of what a commission or the mayor does. Once you're in there, you look at how hard everyone works and the wisdom that it has to be obviously have to be able to move an entity such as the city. So I've gained a lot of respect for the work the commission does, and I've learned actually a lot. Sometimes we're from the outside looking in, and you don't actually know what's going on. But once I started getting involved with the city and the legal aspect of it, I usually walk out of there and I'm usually in awe with the wisdom that is needed to be able to go forward with this entity that the commission is managing, basically. So we give you we thank you and thank you for giving us the opportunity to work with the city.
Thank you, Mr. Villarreal, and certainly thank you to the commission for having that foresight to continue to move Rio Grande City forward. And where we were a few years ago to where we're at today, it's incredible, the growth and prosperity. Granted, there's still much work to be done. There always is, and always striving to get better, as today with many of the discussions we had today, including our strong finances and how we're seeking a better rating, even though an 8 bond rating is relatively good, but we're seeking even better. So that goes and bodes well to all the staff members and employees of Rio Grande City that push themselves to greater heights and doing better and always trying to do better, which I applaud those efforts. So thank you to all the staff for making that happen and leading us this charge. And can't say enough about the employees of the city and how hard they work to be where we're at today. It's definitely because of the employees and the great work that you do. Thank you. And with that being said, there was no action on item 8C. So at this time, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Before we do that, Mayor, I want to go back to item 5A and just clarify for the record to reflect on the city minutes that the modification of the contract, because I don't think I stated it, was for a 5-year term with a one option of 24 months. I would want Ms. Garcia to put that on the city minutes. And that's what was actually approved on a prior meeting, and that's what the modification reflects. And I believe that should be posted on the city minutes also.
Thank you, Mr. Villarreal, for that. And just to conclude today, before we adjourn, let's just, for any residents out there that were impacted by the flooding, please contact our City Hall. There is a citizen's request as well at the bottom of the page if you want to do it through online services, and you're able to input your information on their address and comment section, any of the concerns. We are working on a drainage master plan or master drainage plan. But in the meantime, let's, if there are any problems that you experience in some of the streets or flooding streets, and again, this is within city limits. If you're outside city limits, you're welcome to also contact us to see how we can coordinate with the county to address some of those issues, or at least put you in the right direction as to who to contact. But in the city, again, if you had any issues, anything that can address, please let us know. If we haven't visited your neighborhoods, we had crews out there visiting all the areas that were affected. However, if for some reason we did not, please contact the city 487-0672, and also on web, I was mentioning, make a citizen's request. Anything you would like to add to that, Mr. Perez, regarding flooding or anything that was impacted?
No, sir. I think you've covered it. But again, just as a reminder, anything we might have missed, please don't hesitate to let us know at City Hall. We need to come look at your area. We know it's going to possibly rain again on Friday. Then it's forecasted percentage-wise to go down to 20%, 30% from there on. But just in case something else comes in that's not on the forecast, we're prepared for it and looking out for the interest of the residents.
Okay. Mr. Barrera, anything else you would like to add regarding the flooding or anything that we need to let residents know?
That's about it. Like Mr. Perez said, call us if we've missed something. Call away.
The only thing, Mr. Perez, I'd like to add to that is it possible to have staff on standby in case we do get a lot of water at one time, like we did this past week, to utilize the pumps that we just purchased. We can use some of those, pumps at the subdivisions that you mentioned earlier to help out those citizens there not to get water on their homes.
Yes, sir. And the challenge in those neighborhoods is always trying to locate where we're going to pump the water to make sure it doesn't come back to them. And so
Correct.
that we need to figure out. We can't do it in every location that has issues with drainage, but we certainly can go out there and evaluate it and make sure we can do whatever we can with it within our control. Again, we have 2 pumps available now on trailers. They have a motor built into them, so they can be deployed anywhere, anytime. And they're 6-inch pumps, so they're going to pump. I don't know the gallons per minute. Mr. Cruz, do you have any idea how much water they can put out?
I have all the specifications on my emails.
Okay.
But just to answer your question, Commissioner Ramirez, between myself, between the PUD and Public Works, I know that both departments have crews on call and on standby. So if something happens, we're readily available, a phone call away to disperse those crews to go out there. And that was as per Mr. Perez's direction as of this last event.
Thank you.
Now, I'd like to take a moment to thank all the staff. They worked very well together. Every department had a hand in the process, from the Parks Department to Public Works, Public Utilities. They all work in tandem and making sure that they looked out for the best interest of our residents. We do rely on residents also calling in. That was instrumental also, because there's only so many of us that we can spread out. But the public needs to let us know if there are areas that we might have missed, or when things are happening. We need to be alerted to those areas so that we can make sure we take care of them.
One more thing I'd like to add to what Mr. Perez said, for the commissioners and mayor. If you have people that obviously have some problematic areas, please have them call the front office and speak to Nora. What I'm having Nora do is we're having her document and create a work order for all these problematic areas, because if we continually get recalls and reports on these areas, obviously there's a bigger issue we need to look at versus just a one-time flood, or are we continually getting calls in these areas. So we're trying to create work order systems to create a paper trail. So later on, when we need to go out for funding, maybe there's a natural disaster, FEMA, there's documentation that we've documented all these instances and situations that have arisen. So please encourage the constituents, the citizens, please call the office and so that we can file a work order on those flooded areas.
And part of that, as we were discussing earlier, and we alluded to, is a master drainage plan to make sure that we have a meeting next week or sometime soon with county officials. That way we can look at some of those problem areas that were impacted and how we can work together with them to alleviate some of those areas. Because it's that drainage continues towards the river as fast as possible, or as efficiently as possible.
And then the next couple of weeks, we'll be working with the county officials in those areas that are slightly outside of the city to make sure that we at least work on a plan together, and how do we go forward to make sure we prevent these issues.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Perez. With that being said, anything else before we conclude today? I know it's been a long meeting, so thank you for your patience. Nonetheless, at this time, do we have a motion to adjourn?
I so move, Mayor.
All right, we have a motion to adjourn by Commissioner Ramirez. We have a second. No, nobody wants to leave.
Yeah, all right. See ya.
Do we have a second? Nobody seconded.
I second, Mayor.
I second.
All right, we have a second by Commissioner Jones. All those in favor, raise your right hand.
They're falling asleep. Come on, wake up.
All right, opposed, motion carries, meeting adjourned. It is 9:10 PM. Thank you, everyone.